Right. Excellent. I'll ask my co-host, whoever is AU Core there, to let people in. And I'll just kick us off. Okay. We're back to, of course, another AU Core technical design group. This is our first one after the face-to-face, or the hybrid meeting, actually. And we've got a jam-packed agenda, which we always do for AU Core. So we've got our usual business and a ballot update. And also Kylie and Heather are joining us to give us an update on AU CDI R1 and where that's at and what that means for us. And Michael Wilson will also give a brief, just a couple of notes of what's coming up in AU Core around the AU Core sort of testing launch. Where now that we're through, I think, that development phase in AU Core, we're now into refinement and going through a testing and I guess refining based on evidence the content we have for the AU Core R1 scope before we go to ballot in August. And so to that note, we've got some change requests that have been tabled for today. We'll see what we get through. I think we're a bit faster than we used to be, but I'm not sure we'll actually manage to get through all 5 today. From the change request, that first one, it should be pretty familiar, hopefully, for people. That was something we've already approved, but we wanted to just have a quick flick through of the guidance that Brett had put together on body site and laterality before we actually okay that being merged into AU Core. So we're going to go through that one today. And then we've got the new change requests, which are around search parameters, which I think are coming through from the change requests we've just made through ballot reconciliation. Then we're going to talk on meeting cadence proposal. We had a little bit of a discussion on that on the hybrid. I sort of raised that I think we can cancel our Friday weekly sessions. So I've got a proposal here for us to talk through and then vote on. And then next meeting, what are we going to do? So that's what our agenda is today. And so we'll start with our usual business. Now, there's 2 minutes to approve. The previous virtual call, which was on the 10th of May, and our hybrid minutes of the 16th of May. Now, these have been out for a review for a week to 3 weeks, depending on which one they are. All feedback has been included. And if no one wants any more time to review those, I think we can go ahead and motion to approve the minutes. So if no one's going to call out for looking for more time, I'll ask for someone to motion approval of those 2 sets of minutes.
I'll motion to approve.
I'll second. Michael
Thanks,
Osborne.
Michael Wilson, and then Michael Osborne as second. Thank you. All right, I'll go ahead and pop in our meeting poll now to approve those minutes. Okay, and this is to approve both sets of minutes. So if you can go through and just pop in whether you are happy to approve those minutes, you actually aren't happy to approve the minutes, or you'd like to abstain. Now, there's been an update to Zoom. Brett, can you see that people are voting? If you're speaking, Brett, you're on mute.
Let me get off mute. Yes, I can see people voting. I have still people are coming through.
Okay. So we just got a few more people to vote, and then we'll close this in about 30 seconds. And then I'll have to get Brett, I think, to read out the results, because an update to Zoom has meant that as the host, I can launch it, but I can't actually see anything that's happening for some reason. which is a shame. All right, so let's
All right.
end that poll.
Okay,
And
cool.
I'll share those results. Could you read those out, Brett?
Sure, we have 13 affirmative and 19 abstentions and no negatives.
Okay, great. That motion is approved. Those minutes are approved. Thank you very much. All right. So let's get on to our next bit, which is an update. Okay, so this is an update across AU Core and also those AU Base tickets that we moved out of scope of AU Core and into AU Base. So I'll start with AU Base. So everything there is done. It turns out that there were 7 issues, as in we passed a later one to AU Base, I think just in our previous couple of meetings. So we moved 7 issues to them. They've made decisions on all of them, and the changes are now in AU Base now. So everything to do with our ballot reconciliation from an AU Base perspective has been completed. From an AU Core perspective, we have not only completed triage, but as at that last hybrid meeting, we had completed making decisions on all of our issues that needed to come through us, which was 147. And now 93% of those issues have been applied to AU Base. So there's only a few more to go. We are on track for publishing the next snapshot. So our ballot resolution snapshot, which will be 040-preview as the version number. And that's still planned for the 25th of the 6th. So the 25th of June. It's not going to be earlier because there are a couple of terminology changes there. So even though we have them agreed, the NCTS release is what we're waiting on before we can hit publish for that new version of AU Core. And the last thing I wanted to say there is a big thank you to the technical design group who has done so much work over since we started and building through AU Core to go to our ballot for comment, to have raised the issues, gone through, discussed them, come to these meetings, done the work, done the review. And I think that the outcome of this is really, really strong. The current draft now of AU Core is in really good shape. I'm pretty excited then for us to be moving into that testing phase and just really confirming where we have made those decisions on what is going to be in R1. So big thanks to everybody. Well done. And now I'm going to pass over to Kylie to do an AU CDI update. Just let me know, Kylie, like next slide, and I'll hit that button.
Yeah. Cool, thank you. Next slide, please. I'll try not to take too long because I know you've got a lot of decisions to get through, and some of you might have heard some of this before. I'd also like to thank everyone from the TDG and the CDG, obviously, but we did get a lot of feedback from the AU CDI release one for community comment. We had it open for 6 weeks. We got over 50 respondents and over 400 feedback items. We definitely got a nice spread across the board in terms of what kind of stakeholders we got, and there was a large number from industry or software vendors as well, so thank you so much. As a progress report, we were almost completed, and at this point we've added in response to the feedback 16 new data items. We've removed 2 data items, and we now have 126 items on the backlog, and I'll go through that quickly I think in the next slide. So yeah, maybe we can just go to the next slide. So this was the overall summary of the themes of feedback. So for the overall document, there was some just questions around the rationale for optional versus mandatory. We did receive a lot of additional national references and international FHIR references, and some questions around data types, just like what they meant. And then across the board for various different ones, there was a lot of questions, a need for additional data elements or data groups. So I've kind of popped them all here. We didn't have anything too crazy. There was definitely, because we were doing core of the core, we definitely focused on keeping it small, which I think it means everyone was equally wanting. So we have collated all of those and put them all onto a backlog. One of the biggest things, as I mentioned, was this need for date time to be explicitly included. So originally we were just going to leave all date time out, but there was a lot of feedback to say that it was really, really important for us to explicitly include that within the AUCDI. So if you can just click once, Danielle. What that has meant is we've added either last updated to all of the summary type data groups, but we've also added a date of measurement or date of observation to all of the measurement and vital signs and the biomarkers. There was another comment around endpoint and last administration, and there was quite a lot of confusion around that. So we decided to take those two things out of AUCDI R1 and put them in the backlog for further discussion to understand a little bit better. Yep, next slide, thanks. So this is just a list of all of the backlog items that we've been collecting. So these were the existing data groups that were in AUCDI R1. These are extensions to those, so all the additional data elements that were identified during the review by the reviewers. And so we've collected all these here. And if we go to the next slide, these are sort of new items, so they're data groups. We haven't put a lot of effort into thinking about what those are, whether it's a single data group or multiple data groups or elements that sit under something else, but that we've collected them all for use when we do some prioritization in the future. So yes, the slides are available on the HL7 website, but we'll also be posting all of this stuff when we do publish the document. So we will publish the backlog, that sort of change log, as well as the report itself. And then I think the next slide. So this is what it looks like now. You can see that it's been updated with the last updated, and for the measurements, vital signs and biomarkers, we now have a date of measurement or date of observation. And I think medication use statement has date of assertion. Next slide. So we've now worked through all the feedback. We are going through final internal reviews, and we are still on track for our release at the end of June. So watch this space. I should have also just wanted to mention AUE Request DI is now out for review as well. If you haven't seen it, if you have any questions, just reach out. And that's all I had, Danielle.
Yeah, thanks, Kylie. We'll sort of come back to now with the AUCDI information that you guys have provided to us, which is a little bit sneak preview. Thank you. So that's going to be one of our topics, I think, for our next meetings, is working through those changes from AUCDI R1 and what that means for AU Core R1. But we'll talk about that at the end of the meeting when we go through our next meeting agenda. But thanks very much, Kylie. Appreciate it.
No problem.
So I'll hand over to Michael to talk through AU Core testing launch.
Yeah, hi. Today we're excited to be launching the start of the AU Core testing phase. So this is a really important part of the standards development process, where we've got our specification and we have it in theory, but now we want to put it into practice and see what works, what doesn't, is it implementable. So we're inviting implementers to start testing AU Core and verify that it's practical, it's feasible, it's implementable, help identify issues and challenges and gaps that we may have missed to date, and providing that feedback to improve AU Core. So you'll see today there'll be some LinkedIn posts, there'll be emails out to the TDG and the like about trying to get participants to help us test AU Core. So I'll just move to the next one. So who should get involved in testing AU Core? Look, we want as many people as possible in testing AU Core now, so we can find the issues and get the feedback on it. So anyone who's you're building a FHIR-enabled product, it can be an app, it can be a facade, it can be a server, a data store, or even just data, even if you've just got FHIR resources that you put together and want to test with AU Core. And any of the sort of areas that we've covered in AU Core was allergy, medication, vaccination, vitals, diagnostic, patient demographics, provider information, any of those sorts of things. If you're working on something that will touch those areas, we want you involved. We want you to start testing AE Core and get us that feedback on what works. I might just jump to the next one. We're going to have a couple of testing events as well to do the sort of hands-on real-time troubleshooting, sharing insights, and gathering the implementation testing feedback for AE Core. So we've got a couple of sparked one-day testing events in Brisbane on 27th of June, Sydney the 15th of July, and Melbourne on the 1st of August, as well as HL7 Connectathon on the 21st and 22nd of August. So we're looking for participants to come along there, bring their software. Let's test it out and raise feedback on AE Core. So to find out more, we're going to have a launch briefing that will be next Friday at 12 o'clock. There's a Zoom link there. You'll also, as TDG members, you'll get an invite to that as well. It's also in our calendars, on our Confluence pages. So hopefully you can come along to that, and we'll provide a lot more detail on what we're doing and how we're going about it. So hopefully see you there.
Thanks, Michael. And yeah, I'll just confirm that. So all of that and the upcoming connectathons and everything, I just really want to draw people's attention again to our calendars, which covers off all those events. All this kind of thing is in here. There's that launch, which has the Zoom in it. All the upcoming connectathons, even the ballot periods. This calendar is kept pretty up to date, where it's got all sorts of information in it. So check that out. Definitely keep up to date on it. So let's get into the change request portion of today. We've got the first one here, which Brett, I'll get you. Do you want to share your screen then, or later to like go through this? So I guess context for people who haven't been at the last technical design group meetings where we talked through this, which was prior to ballot. We made some agreements to add guidance into AU Core, into the guidance section, on how to provide information around body site, including laterality for procedure and condition, and to add that to the guidance page. And the action was on Brett to go away and put together a draft and bring that back for review. That did get sent out for review, I think almost 6 weeks ago. And we've just sort of dropped that off our schedule to talk about since, because we've gone through ballot reconciliation. But now that we've finished that, it's back. And so we're here now to, I guess, just close that loop on this content. So did you want me to continue sharing, Brett? Or do you want to share?
I can probably share. That might be easier.
Stop. And so we're just going to do a walkthrough and confirm what that content is. And then I believe we are still going to take a decision that we are happy with that as it is to merge in, or to call if anyone wants any time to provide feedback, in which case then we'd actually move to make this an electronic vote with review. So go for it, Brett. Walk us through.
Cool. So we have gone through this before, but basically with the feedback from last time, I think there were a few minor edits. So this is just looking at the final version. So so what we have is just some guidance material. It's just explaining usage of the body side element with condition and procedure, which are the profiles that we currently have in scope. So pretty much just it goes through some scenarios on the usage of body site, mainly with different operation in systems where qualifiers are separate, or there's pre-coordinated or sort of compound entries, and then how to deal with some different cases. We particularly noted especially in the GP system space, there's a number of systems that have a separate laterality, separate from a primary term. And then what we've done is actually go through, go through how to sort of present, how to actually implement this with an example. So we've got some examples of essentially the same concept. So you lysis of the right knee, and then being able to express that with the different availability of pre-coordinated codes or otherwise. So basically it goes through each case, and there's an example of the coding entry. It also explains how to apply the text element of the code in each case. So pretty much goes through our main cases where we've got pre-coordinated body site with laterality, so essentially single code. So that's explained there. Pre-coordinated body site without a laterality and a separate laterality qualifier. It explains that using text to describe the laterality, and then just keeping the simple pre-coordinated code of the problem. This is pretty typical in some GP systems where laterality is held separately. So essentially a laterality is only presented in the text part of the entry, and the code is essentially the primary code that is collected currently. So it reflects what systems do. And then the case where we've got essentially body site is there's a problem code recorded, and body sites with laterality is coded separately, and that's basically similarly. There's the ability to express laterally in the primary code, but then optionally you can add a body site which has an explicit body site entry as well. And our final case, I think I got one more. Primary code and body site without laterality coded separately, and then so we've got essentially separate issues, separate expression of the body site from the problem code without any body site reference at all. So pretty much these are, like, whilst quite convoluted in discussion, but basically this is covering off the 4 cases where we've essentially different ways that body site is collected, and the system sort of records body site with against problems and procedures. So hopefully this is, this guidance covers off a way to approach that, and gives some guidance on how you would implement that. And I think primarily it is really aimed at using the existing coding that systems collect, and not requiring an expansion of sort of terminology capability. So hopefully that will cover off and be reasonably easy to implement.
Thanks, Brett. Now, Richard, I also have a comment on this content for the group before we vote on it.
I think it's the first bullet point on the page. There's an in, which should be an is. And
it goes towards my comment. So this is not exact what will be merged. This is the nature of the content, and then it'll go through a QA review before it actually gets merged into AU Core. On which you're welcome to actually join if you'd like, Richard. We could add you as a reviewer on the GitHub if you want to add a fine-tooth comb, sort of check over it before it goes in.
I think that'll be my only comment. Otherwise, it's looking good.
Would you like to also review this? We've got some other reviewers who will QA this if the technical design group is happy with the nature of the content before it gets included. But I'm always happy to add another reviewer.
Yeah, add me.
All right, awesome. We'll do that.
Awesome.
So that's the nature of the content. We'd previously agreed these were the cases, this was the advice, and what will go into AU Core is essentially the advice. It looks like this, and there are example snippets for those. subject, of course, to the quality assurance review I'll be doing, Richard will be doing, and we've got a couple of other people to make sure that what makes it actually into AU Core is like spell checked and has all the right format, and we confirm all the codes. Any other comments or questions about that content? Or are we happy to motion to accept that that material will join the guidance in AU Core, and we can continue to refine it from there? All right. Is that a motion, Richard? Are you happy to motion?
Yes, I motion that we accept that proposal.
Okay. Is there a second? A seconder?
I can be the second.
Thanks, Celia. So we'll go through now for a decision on that. Can I ask people who would like to vote negatively on including that guidance to raise your hands now using the Zoom reactions? Okay, that's 0. And then I'll ask people who would choose to vote abstain to go through and raise your hand in the Zoom reactions. Okay, people coming through now, and I'll just wait for that to... We've got also some claps and some hands up. Those will disappear shortly, so you might need to actually move to hands up instead. Okay, I think that's holding solid now at 14, so we'll take that as 14 people abstaining. There were 44 participants on the line at the time we took this vote. If the motion has passed, the exact number of approvals I'll need to double check later, because I think there's at least 1 AI, but there might be 2, and we won't count them as approved voters. But the motion has passed, so we'll go ahead and put that pull request through and then get that reviewed so that it comes into AU Core. Thank you, everyone. Now, Barney, your hand is up. Is that just because it hasn't dropped yet, or did you have a comment or question you wanted to make? Oh, no. Okay, no worries. So I'll share my screen again. So we've moved through that one. And now let's go to the other change requests for today. So the next 3 are all of the same kind of thing. So what we've got is talking about search parameters. Now, in our ballot reconciliation, we went ahead and made some decisions to remove must support from certain elements. And in this case, during block vote 17, we removed must support in R1 for medication request identifier and medication request category. And a change request has been raised because those elements have some associated search parameters that are also called out as supported in AU Core, to say that as we've removed support for those elements in R1 and AU Core, we should be making the corresponding change to remove support for the search parameters in AU Core. So that's what's raised. I'll just click here so we can see what that currently looks like in medication request. Hopefully that's big enough for people. And what they're referring to is there's medication request identifier as a should support here, and also category, although that doesn't really matter because categories may, but that's true anyway. But we can remove that from AU Core. So this is what the subject of the change request is to remove these from the set of search parameters that are called about support for AU Core medication request. So now I'll open that to the technical design group. Are there any comments or questions on the nature of this change request?
I have one question. The ones down the bottom that have got Mays on them, why do they have May on them? Because
a few items are much.
Yeah, I was thinking that affects the whether it makes more sense to simply change identifier to May, or whether it makes more sense to remove May identifier and category. depending
And-
upon what's wanted with those, why those other things are there with.
And at the time, so when this was put out to ballot, anything with may had must support on it. And that was the state to highlight that this was a relevant item, and it is worth considering whether or not you have stronger local requirements. With must support being removed from AU Core, the proposal is that this is no longer, in R1 at least, something that's of sufficient relevance that we want to highlight that, because it's not considered a support requirement.
Thank you. That's clear to me.
No worries. Any other questions or comments on that before we move to make a decision? All right, so I'll ask then if someone would like to motion to remove support for these search parameters, medication request identifier and category, from AU Core R1.
I would like to move that, Brett.
Thanks, Brett. So we have Brett making that motion. Is someone happy to second that?
I'll second Steph.
Thanks, Steph. Okay, so we'll move to a vote. Can I ask those people who want to vote negatively, as in they want to retain support for those two search parameters, to now raise their hand using the Zoom reactions?
Sorry, was that abstain, Danielle?
No, it's negative.
Negative. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that's 0. So now we'll move to the abstain. So for those people who want to abstain from this decision, please raise your hand now using the Zoom reactions. Okay. It looks like we've got 16, 17. Okay, 18. So we have 18 abstaining. So at the time we took the vote, there's 44. Again, we'll double check that count at the end, but that motion has passed. So we will be going ahead and removing support for those two items from AU Core R1. Thanks everyone for that, for coming to a decision. So let's move on to the next one, which is of exactly the same nature, but this time it's a different profile and a different search parameter. In fact, there's 2 of these. There's one on encounter type, and there's one on discharge disposition. Now, in the same block vote, we have voted to remove support from encounter type. For those of you who were looking through that at the time, what that means is in AU Core Encounter, we chose to keep must support on service type here, and remove must support from encounter type. And so the change request has been raised that since we have chosen to remove must support from encounter type, to also then remove support from it as a search parameter in AU Core R1. And that will affect, as far as I could tell, 2 things. So here, where the combination of patient and type is a should, and down here where type was listed as may. So we'll open now to the technical design group for any comments or questions or opinions on that particular change request. And if we're all pretty clear on it, then we might be able to move to a decision. All right. I'm not hearing anyone. I don't think anyone's got their hands raised. So,
Richard,
yes.
I'll propose that we accept that proposal.
Okay, thanks, Richard. So you're motioning that we accept the proposal to remove must support from that type search parameter in R1. Is anyone happy to second that?
I'll second.
Okay, thanks, Heath. And now we'll move to taking a vote. So if anyone wants to vote negatively, please raise your hand in Zoom now. And it looks like no one's raising their hand, so we will take that as 0. And for those who would like to abstain, please raise your hand now in Zoom. We have some coming through, so we'll just let that count go up. Okay, so we have 16 have chosen to abstain. We have 45 participants at the time of this vote. So we'll take that final count later, but that motion has passed and we will move to removing support for those 2 items in our Core R1. So we've got one last one then about encounter. And so this is discharge disposition. So in an exactly similar circumstance, from the AU Core encounter profile, we voted in an R1 state to remove the information around hospitalisation, including discharge disposition. And, oh, sorry, someone still has their hand up. Okay. Andy, your hand is up? Or is that left over from the vote? Okay, left over. Okay, so discharge disposition, hospitalisation and discharge disposition was removed from the must support elements through ballot reconciliation. And the same question has been raised, or really the same change request, that since we are no longer supporting those elements in R1, that support for the search parameters should also be removed. So that's discharge disposition. So that affects this search parameter combination here, patient and discharge disposition, and it affects this this single search parameter here. So I'll open the floor again for TDG for any comments, questions, opinions on this particular change proposal. All right, I'm going to take silence as we all totally know about this and we have our opinion. And I'll ask for, does someone want a motion to approve that proposal to remove support for discharge disposition as a search parameter in AU for R1?
I will propose that, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. Would someone like to second that?
I will second again.
Thanks, Heath. Okay, then let's move through to a vote on that. I'll ask for people to raise their hands now if they want to vote negative on removing support for that. And no one has raised their hand, so we take that as 0. And I'll ask for people now who want to abstain, please raise your hand using the Zoom reactions. Okay, so we have 13 there abstaining. With a count of 44 at this point in time, that motion has passed. We'll bring up the final numbers in the minutes. Thanks, everyone. So we're going through, I think, at pretty good time. So that's 11:40. Just double checking what else we've got to go. Okay, I think we actually can get to this last one. I wasn't sure. Liam, your hand's up. Is that just you haven't put it down yet? Or do you, okay, yep, haven't put it down yet. No problem. Okay, so this one's a little bit different. It's still about search parameters. But in this case, it's not really related, or actually it's not related to having consistency from ballot reconciliation change. This is on AU Core patient, and it's talking about support for comparators for the birth date search parameter. And this change request is proposing that the search parameter for birth date currently has support for parameters GTLE, LTLE, GE, which is greater than, less than or equal to, less than, and greater than or equal to. And these are currently shall, and it's suggesting that these should be may in AU Core R1, noting that the support on the birth date search parameter for those comparators in IPA and US Core is also a may. So I'm just going to go to what that looks like for people. And AU Core, I didn't put a link in, and I should have. And I think other contextual information is that for other parameters we have in AU Core that are dates. So for example, I think medication request orthodon, the search parameters for the comparators there are shalls as well. So far for all date parameters in AU Core, these comparators are shall. So if I do, there's an example, but that's on onset date. Client, patient, birth date. Actually, that'll give me that. Here. So the birth date is a May, but if you are supporting the birth date search parameter, AU Core currently says that you shall support a search with greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to as shall. Okay, I've had a go at contextualizing that. I'd like to open that up and go, who uses this? Yeah.
So this winds up saying that if you choose to implement birth date search, then you have to implement these parts of birth date search.
That's right, yes. So you have to allow people, if you choose to search by birth date, to not just choose the exact date, but to be able to find patients whose birth date is less than 1990, for example.
Right. So if you were building a system and you found that too much to do, you would, to fit AU Core, your option would be to say, no, you can't search on birth date at all, rather than to say you can search on some part that you can search with this wide range of parameters.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
How useful are these, is support for these parameters on a birth date search, out of interest?
To me, it's interesting to say, well, if you can't meet these four shalls, then you aren't allowed to advertise the fact that you've got a birth date search. That's an interesting sort of strength.
To me, it depends on your use case. If you're trying to do like research, like give me all patients who are under 18, it might be relevant. But if you're just doing, I'm more sort of operational stuff, like working on this patient, working on that patient, it's probably not very useful.
I can imagine there's probably cases where trying to find patients who qualify for something and they have to be older than a certain age or younger or something. I can also add, I'm from Halo Connect. We implemented this for BP Premier recently, and I'm not engineering, so I don't know exactly what it took, but engineering was not concerned about having to add support for, actually they snuck it in. I'm product, I didn't actually know they were going to do it, but they snuck in support for these modifiers when they were doing birth date search. They didn't seem concerned about it. So.
Okay.
I think I snuck that in, Millie.
That's also likely.
I think it's quite useful, but for R1, not necessary. But I think it should be revisited later because I think it's quite valuable.
Then you can see from there if you'd like.
I think we're in a better situation than we used to be, but there was certainly use cases where people were a bit vague on their birth date, and in particular in Indigenous communities where their birth dates are perhaps different in various systems. I think so. Having a precise day is very precise. So a fallback to be able to say that they're somewhere in the vicinity of 2000 and whatever is useful. but that's goes beyond just a greater than, less than. That's actually the combination of the two.
Mhm.
I'm more concerned of what Richard said, where because you've made them go to the high bar, they then just opt out of providing database search at all, which would be really bad.
I mean, it is a May and AU core, and I guess that's the question, is how useful and how difficult is it? Is anyone finding this challenging? Would this cause a problem for them?
I think what I'm hearing there is that if we change this to those, why is it replicated? Is it different? Oh, okay. Change them to shoulds, have the shall on the precise and shoulds on the modifiers, would make it more implementable.
Okay.
In terms of being able to search for fuzzy dates, as I would call it, like instead of specifying year, month, day, just specifying year, month or something. My engineering team seemed a lot more concerned about implementing that, like just accepting year and month rather than year, month, day, and then a modifier. So I think this is the easier option from,
Yeah, I agree with that. The rules around default handling of partial dates is quite tricky with FHIR. So I completely agree with that.
So maybe we should keep it. Maybe that's the decision, is we don't approve the change. We wait for someone to raise a problem.
I was going to say, how are we articulating the and, like the multiple occurrences of these parameters?
For birth date at the moment, let's go have a look. On multiple or and requirements, there aren't any for birth date, which means they are Mays. If we're silent, you could do it, but there's no AU core is silent on any requirements around multiple or multiple and for birth date.
So if you're only no to the month, then what you'd do is you'd search for greater than or equal to the first of the month, and you do another search for less than or equal to the end of the month, and then you locally process that to take the intersection of those two sets that you've retrieved.
Ideally not, and that's why I'm asking about the and scenario, because you want to actually put the two dates in the same request as effectively multiple parameters.
Yeah,
to
that would
say
be pretty normal.
it's greater than this, greater or equal to this, and less than or equal to that in the one request, so that you actually get that intersect.
Yeah, it's super. These are all super population health useful. Finding cohorts that are in a date range and age range or something like that. So
I think that just changing it to should would be the appropriate way to move forward on this.
Yeah.
And being silent on the ends.
Okay, so Andrew, you've raised your hand.
Yeah, just with the ands and the ands and the shalls, and the fact that the capability has that. So if a system supports, if the system may support birth date as a query parameter, but if they are going to say that they support birth date, they shall do it as to the day with an offset with this and with the search comparators, right? So if you have any type of birth date searching, it shall have all those capabilities.
Yes.
Not necessarily together.
Yes. Although I guess the proposal now, potentially, if we go forwards with what Heath is saying, is should.
Well, shall do precise to one day and should for the modifiers.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, and I think kind of with Brett's point of these are more population health things. If you're looking to return a set of patients, you're not necessarily trying to use a kind of match function or use these in a vacuum is kind of the point, is that you're not going to try and just say, here's my query with just give me all patients with a birth date greater than this date and less than this date, and then let me figure that out as the requester. I think those should be shoulds, because there's a lot of nuance of when to use those and how to use those.
Well, a lot of them will come in this part, because that applies here. So birth date and family. So you're not sure of the exact birth date and you're trying to find the patient with their family name and some imprecise value of birth date.
How does that relate to kind of, and this is getting into the territory of the identity management best practices of what is valid as a match? Is a family name plus a birth date range. If I say, give me any Aubrey that was born between May 1st and May 30th of 1980, is that a valid enough search that we want to support? I think from my system perspective, I would not be comfortable offering that search.
Yep.
So I would want if you're going to be searching for a patient, you're not doing a broad-based search, you're doing a more targeted search to say, I have enough information in terms of demographics to have a high threshold match for that patient. And to me, having a shall that supports greater than, less than, and supporting that range in conjunction with just a family name is not enough to have a high threshold unique match for a singular patient.
But I don't see those shalls associated with that combination.
They are. So it's every instance. So this is
is
when
it?
you implement birth date, you do this. And then it's the combo applies. Everything we wrote about family down here applies to family.
Okay, so they're
wherever
inherited.
it is. Yes.
What are we trying to do with combo? Are we saying that you only need to support those combinations? We're not saying that all search parameters can be combined.
Correct. This is the should set. So these are, it's the same as the other page we were looking at to a degree on, if you go down at the bottom and it has quick notes and it says which parameters. There's individual ones and there's combos, shalls, shoulds, etc. What's the search parameters and search parameter combinations that are expected to be supported. Okay, so I'm actually thinking we might not have to hold this over to another meeting. I'm going to go for some real quick comments from Daniel, then Dan, then Millie, because we're actually running out of time to finish this one off, which has generated some good discussion. So we're going to need to hold it off to our next TDG, I think, to come to a decision. But I'll quickly pass Daniel. Would you like to make a comment?
I'll be on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, look, just real quickly, so not a strong position on the should or shall, but basically just wanted to clarify, whilst this is obviously important for pop health, in the Northern Australian rural and remote space, particularly Indigenous, it is an essential requirement to be able to do date range searching to identify patients as well. So I realize that's only a particular environmental context here, but it is of value to consider.
No, but that is really important. Thanks, Daniel. We'll make sure we make a note of that in the notes. Dan?
Yeah, thanks. From our perspective, running a system that we have been mandated that you've got to provide exact patient demographics to be able to find them. And that's a policy set by New South Wales and Ministry of Health.
Okay, thanks, Dan. And Millie, final comment?
So Halo is building a FHIR facade on top of BP-Prem. So on Andrew's comments on security, I share that, and I've been looking into how we can better protect PII We build on top of the access systems that BP already has for Prem and what their integrators can access, and they have de-identified access for a lot of things like patient data. So something that we're looking at is combinations of their access systems with a database and FHIR's security systems, and how we can, the reason I find this relevant is that in BP's case and in the case of our API, we will allow people to search for everyone born before 1990. But BP Premier and the BP team are the ones who are deciding whether or not an integrator can access all patient data or only de-identified data. So we have a combination there that helps address Andrew's concern, but it is very much system dependent, obviously. Just wanted to raise that as another data point.
No, thanks, Millie. I appreciate that. Hopefully, you'll be at our next technical design group, because I think we now need to hold this one over. So we'll continue and move to decision in our next technical design group meeting on this, because we have run out of time, which brings me really to our meeting cadence proposal. I wanted to raise two things and bring that to this group. I raised them originally in the hybrid session, that I think we can now drop our meeting cadence, in which we've been having weekly Friday sessions, Conformance Fridays, which were a lot of fun, but I think we can now drop those and give people a break. But I also want to, and this meeting is kind of a case in point, I think that we should extend our fortnightly meetings to 90 minutes. So we have fortnightly 90-minute meetings only for AU Core, which lets us go through content discussions and then come to a resolution. So that's what I'd like to propose to the technical design group. And I've got a poll for that, but I'm also happy if anyone wants to make a comment or a question about that proposal before I launch it and we see which way the wind is blowing on whether we'd like to do that. All right, let me launch that meeting cadence proposal and let me see what people think on no longer doing our Friday sessions and just having fortnightly, but giving ourselves 90 minutes so we can go through our content discussions and then resolving them. So we're just leaving that up there. Brett, you're going to have to keep an eye on that for me and let me know when I can end that poll because I can't see it.
We're up to 71%, 75%.
All right, so just a few more people to comment on that one, please.
All right, we seem to be pretty stable at 84%.
All right, I'll end that and share results. Can you share for my benefit so I can know what we're about to do?
For the first question, fortnightly meetings to be 90 minutes, we've got 26 affirmative and 7 abstentions.
Okay.
And no negatives. And for cancelling the weekly Fridays, 26 affirmative, 7 abstentions and 0 negatives.
All right, I think that was pretty clear. Thanks, everyone. I'll start making the updates to those meeting minutes. Now, that doesn't get us out of tomorrow's meeting, which we agreed to have. So that'll still be tomorrow, Friday. There's a couple of things we're going to do a pre-consensus thing on where we're going to talk through any particular items. There won't be decision making in that one. So if you can't make it, that's fine. It's recorded as well. But always come along and welcome to have a less decision-making, I guess, focused chat in tomorrow's session. And so our agenda next week, prescience of me, we're going to try and close the conversation then on AU Core patients. So that'll be first up. We'll talk through that, pick it up, and come to a position whether we keep it as shall, whether we move it as should, whether we take it out. Then we have our allergy and tolerance guidance clarification is coming back. There'll actually be something set out for everyone to have a look at before this. So the proposed guidance will be there so you can review that material and provide any feedback. This is out of a ballot reconciliation item that we agreed we needed to improve the guidance, but we had to go away and write it up and come back. And then we have a new change request on AU core waste circumference and looking at what that binding should be on metric units. And then we're going to start kicking off around AUCDI's elements. Now that AUCDI R1 has made some changes, that means that comes back to us to discuss and work through. And we're going to start that in our next one. So that's 13th of June. And that's it for the meeting.
Can I just jump in? Just on tomorrow's meeting, I'll send out a bit of a email about what it's about, but it will be talking about capability statements and in particular about